Welcome to this edition of Michael's Weekly Perspective Podcast. This is podcast episode 51. In this podcast, I'm going to give you an update on what's going on with me, and then at the end, we'll hear from an employee from Vispero. His name is Mat Ater. That's all for this edition, and stay tuned. Hello, it's great to be back with you once again on this edition of Michael's Weekly Perspective Podcast. This is podcast episode 51. To get hold of this podcast, you can choose to call using the listener line, or you can send me an email. The phone number for this podcast is 404-923-0115. That's 404-923-0115. You can also send me an email, and the email address is munnmichael68@gmail.com. That's munnmichael68@gmail.com. I can't believe the holiday season for 2021 is fast approaching. This Thursday, like last year, I'm going to host a chat on Zoom. If you can come, feel free to come, and I'm sure it will be a fun chat. It's been a long time since I sit in front of this gorgeous Blue Yeti microphone and chatted with all of you. I hope you are doing great during my absentee from producing podcast. There are a lot of things going on during my absence from producing this show. One highlight that I want to share with you during my absence was I upgraded my computer from Windows 10 to Windows 11 operating system. This new Windows operating system is amazing. It is much faster than Windows 10. Of course, I would not recommend some of you upgrading to this new system yet because there are a lot of bugs. Besides bugs in Windows 11, there are some other changes as well. One in particular is the new startup sound that sounded like this. Yes, there is a new startup sound that replaced the old Windows startup sound. I thought I'd brag about Windows 11 since that is the only major operating system running on my computer. As of right now, I produce this podcast. This is my first time transitioning from an existing pre-installed operating system to an operating system that I have to install by myself. Of course, I used Windows 11 Installation Assistant. So this way, I avoided reformat my C drive. The installation process took me 2 hours. So, if you have the patience, go for it. If you don't, I'm sorry to tell you, this is not a journey that you would want to take. That is all I have to say about Windows 11. Today, I received an update of JAWS 2022. This reminded me that I talked to a guy in October from Vispero. His name is Mat Ater. Matt is the Vice President of Software from Vispero. Today, I'm thrilled to invite him to the podcast and have a chat with him. Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Michael. Good to be here.
Before we begin, can you introduce yourself to my listeners and then talk about what do you do and what is your role within Vispero?
Sure. Thank you. So as mentioned, my name is Mat Ater, and I'm the Vice President of Software and Corporate Business Development. That's a wide range of responsibilities. And within corporate business development, and I'll start with that one, it's the responsibility is looking for new markets where our software may fit. And as some of you may have heard, we recently did a promotion or a press release on the fact that JAWS is now going to be in McDonald's kiosks, as an example. And so the corporate business development side is looking for new markets. The other side is the software side. And within that, I have the responsibilities of technical support, software engineering, software product management, technical support, I already mentioned, test department, and cloud services. So it's a broad range of responsibilities, but basically it all revolves around our software products. So I work with the teams to manage all of those different resources to make sure that we build the software, test the software, deploy the software, everything up to the selling point, and then, of course, supporting the software once it's been deployed.
That's very interesting. Are you visually impaired yourself, or you have some vision?
I am.
Okay.
I'm low vision, so I I've been using JAWS since '96. I do have some vision and can use the low vision products we own as well, such as Fusion and Zoom Text, but primarily use JAWS as my primary tool of choice.
So you've been using JAWS ever since what version?
I would say it's probably 3.0 is my guess, somewhere in that range. That's when I first started using it.
So you watched JAWS grow over the time.
Yes, I joined what was Freedom Scientific, which is still a brand within our portfolio. I joined them in 2014 to start a consulting business that eventually became TPG Interactive, which it is today. And so I've been with the company for quite some time, know the software products, know all the ins and outs of the company, and so been enjoying the ride as we go through it.
What is your favorite features within JAWS?
I have a lot of them. I love some of the new stuff we've been coming out with. You know, we now support something that we call email thread navigation. Very excited about that feature. It came out in May of this year, had some enhancements in July. And the intent of this is that if you're in an Outlook message and you want to move forward through the email, if there's a bunch of replies and forwards, you can skip past all the header data by using the letter N to move forward or Shift N to move backwards. It sounds so simple until you actually try to read an email without using that key, and you would stop on every name, email address, from, to, name, email address, name, email address, name. And if there's 20 people on there, that's 40 down arrows to get through that content. And so by pressing this key, the letter N, moving through it faster, we increased the productivity of the people using our software, which was great. Now I'm really excited about a new feature, and then I'll come back to some of the older features. But in JAWS 2022, we're going to have sound splitting. So right now, while I'm talking to you, if I want to, I can push JAWS to one ear and Zoom to the other ear. And I can swap that if I prefer the ears to be swapped. I could do this with YouTube videos. I could do it with other conferencing applications, meeting applications, and so on. And it's really powerful because, and I think that I'll mention one other area, which is call centers. It's hard to listen to a screen reader in the same ear as you're listening to somebody else talk. And so by being able to split that sound makes it a lot easier for people. So very excited about that feature. And if we go back in time, there's a lot of great features. I think Speech and Sounds Manager doesn't get its press. It's a wonderful feature so that you can, instead of hearing everything spoken, you may be able to have a sound played for something. For example, headings on a web page or the word link on a web page. Would you rather have a sound associated to it? Or instead of actually doing even a sound, you could change the voice pitch or change to a different voice when you hear a link versus a heading. And that, again, is the intent to speed up your productivity, to reduce the noise, shorten the syllables you have to listen to, and let you focus on real content. And so those are the, so some of the things that I'm just very proud of within the company, and some of them I wasn't involved in, others I was. But there's so many. And for those of you who follow Facebook club called JAWS Screen Reader Users Group, and I post lots of tips on all of those types of features, from speech on demand to Picture Smart to OCR to Word to virtualizing a current control. I mean, the list goes on for some of those great features that I love so much. And I think almost 60 tips in that platform for people to use, and they're just short how-tos on how to use a certain feature.
Oh yes, you are very active in that JAWS screen reader group. My favorite feature within JAWS is the speech and sound scheme. I am a person who uses English as a second language, and sometimes during class we get handouts, and sometimes the teacher asks us to define word that is highlighted in yellow. It is easy for sighted people to locate that highlight, but for us users who use a screen reader, this can be complicated.
And I used to do it that way, and then I learned something around text analyzer. And one of the cool things in text analyzer is you can say, I only want to find things in yellow. So you don't have to read the rest of the text. You only read it only takes you to the yellow text when you press the key. And that I thought was really cool because it, again, somebody else who can skim a document has no problem whatsoever doing this. And whereas, you and I may need to do something slightly different. And I may have said text analyzer, it could have been the skim reading. No, it's a skim reading tool, sorry. And so, see, once again, there's so many features out there, getting used to all these different features.
Oh yes, yeah, text analyzer has also served another purpose in my school. Sometimes when I type fast. This resulted in me leaving empty spaces behind. Thanks to Alt Windows I command, I was able to press backspace to get rid of the empty space.
Exactly, and I think these are the kinds of things that our engineers have been so creative to create these kinds of features to help support people within the workplace.
Oh yes, totally. This is part 1 of 2-part interview that I did with Mat Ater. Folks, this is it for this edition of Michael's Weekly Perspective Podcast. If you have any questions or comment, please feel free to send me an email or you can call using the listener line. The phone number for this podcast is 404-923-0115. That's 404-923-0115. You can also send me an email, and the email address is munnmichael68@gmail.com. That's munnmichael68@gmail.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast, and have a nice day.